got me good in a hole that I just can't defuse. But I know, the tricks up your sleeve. 'Cause you and I used to sing just to pass by the time, and I can't let go without a partial thought to where our song may flow. Some ring away, but the echo of yours seemed to stay. And lately when I listen close, what I hear may be fake. So you be real now, and I'll be honest, that what we've got here is truly harmonic. And I can search just to hear the same sound play, but why would I when you're standing here right in front of me? Truly harmonic. Oh, you've got me good. It's a concept I just can't refuse, but you had to see through what seemed without flaw. So you may say that this anthem of ours long away, maybe it's true. So when this sound leaves my ear, I can't help but to sing it again. Hope that if I sing it out, maybe you'll comprehend. I've been around now, and all is silent. What we've got here is truly harmonic. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. When you think of me and the lyrics that we used to sing, and take them for then what they appear. 'Cause all along, I'll admit that it's all just a song, but maybe it's more than singing to me. Do we exist if the sound of our music stops playing? 'Cause maybe the next time around things won't be the same without exchange. So you be real now, and I'll be honest, that what we've got here is truly harmonic. And I can search just to hear the same sound play, but why would I when you're standing here right in front of me? Truly harmonic.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame.
It's January. How can we be playing
I don't
baseball?
know. But you know, it's funny. They
sense.
talked about peanuts in there, but they used to serve peanuts when you went to ball games, right?
They served peanuts when I was.
Used to get them hot in the bag.
Hey everybody, welcome again to the Business Powwow with Darren and the Music Man. Darren sitting next to me, this nice looking gentleman, and I be the Music Man over here, Norman Wasserman. So Welcome, and how are you, Darren?
Good. How are you, Norman? Did you have a good week?
Well, considering we're in the middle of it.
We're in the middle of it,
This
right?
is hump day.
Hump day today, right?
Hump day,
A lot
yeah,
of
so
stuff
far
going on.
things have been good.
Busy week,
Yeah, it's
busy
been a very
week.
busy week. Got some new groups, got some new shows.
Good for you.
And that's great. I mean, I'm throwing strikes right over the plate.
That's it. You're making things happen,
I'm
right?
making things happen. What
Knocking
about
it
you?
out of the park.
You're doing pretty good.
Knocking it out of the park.
Right?
Yeah, I've had a good week
You
so
left at
far
7
this week.
o'clock this morning.
Well, actually, no. I left at a little before 6 this morning.
All right, so it was a
You
little
know,
before 6.
A little
and now
before
it's
6. I'm
after
working
8,
all day. It's after 8 o'clock.
and you're still
I'm
working.
making things happen.
You know, so is our guest.
So I probably hit about a triple today.
You did a triple?
Yeah, I haven't hit it out yet.
All right. Well,
But
you
we're
know,
getting
I'm
there.
waiting for tomorrow to smack it. Well, actually, it depends how you look at it. I got a double.
You got a double?
I got a double today. I got right up the
Alright.
middle.
So
They
people
were
are,
pi- they were
people are sitting there
playing me to
going,
the
what are
right.
these guys talking about?
We're gibbering like we
Gibber,
always
we
do.
always gibber, right?
Gibber.
But, you
Our
know,
guest isn't gibbering.
no, he doesn't
No,
gibber
he
at
doesn't
all,
gibber.
right? Very serious guy.
Pressure's been on him for a long time.
Well,
Look how stiff he is.
listen, he
Look at
reacts
his
to
stiff.
it. He reacts to it. So we want to welcome
Yo, Vinny.
Vinny Masana, right, Vinny? I said it right?
Welcome,
From-
Vinny.
From Axcess Baseball. Welcome, Vinny. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing very well, thank you for guys.
Nice to see
thank
you.
guys for
Nice
having
to
me
see you.
on the
Welcome.
show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Happy
So-
that you're here.
So, Vinny, tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys do.
Yeah, so we're a media company. Axcess Baseball covers college and high school baseball primarily on
Were
Long
you a
Island.
journalist or something? What do you do?
Well, my background is in journalism.
Okay.
So I went to Adelphi University, and so we're looking to get into the younger ages, but primarily the crux of the business is college and high school baseball here on Long Island.
So you really follow all the athletes and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not all you do,
Mm-mm.
right?
No,
So tell us about.
What do you mean you follow them? What do you do?
He follows them around, right? So
What do
it's
you follow?
Do we got a child issue here? A child law issue? Do we have to
So
pull some kids?
no, not at all. So in the way that you would watch the Yankees
You mean
or
like
the Mets
prospects?
cover. Yeah, of course.
Oh.
So we cover from a journalistic standpoint, and I think we kind of have a good mesh with my background as a former player. We kind of try to give a good mix between the typical news and also the scouting side of things.
Former player, you look like you're 18 years old. Who did you play for? The Lindenhurst Little League?
I went to Center Reach High School, so Middle Country is a district over there.
All right, yeah, and as I live in that district, so it's Center Reach not necessarily known for their sports though, but Vinny's a
That's
product of
something
Center Reach.
Neither
He's-
was
he's
Ward
done a good
Melville.
job.
That's right.
That's
until
right,
Stephen
until
Matz
Matt-
came around.
Yeah,
Came along,
exactly.
and then he nailed it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you never know, right? You never know what's going to happen.
I think
Yeah,
we
and the
should
crazy thing
donate
with
this.
them is now they've had 4 guys drafted. So
Oh, they have
Matt's
4
was
now?
really just the first one,
Right.
and now they've made a bit of a name for themselves for sure.
So wait, so you've been following baseball. So wait a second, you get paid to do this?
Yeah, so I am the boss. So nobody is handing me a paycheck, but I have to go out there and strike up deals with local businesses that want to advertise on our site. And it's very unique because obviously it's a special niche. We're targeting basically 14 to 22-year-old athletes on Long Island.
So if
it's-
I get this right, what your job is to follow these athletes, say from junior high school to high school to
Right up to
college, and
college, yeah.
find these guys, these kids, and recommend them to professional baseball teams? Or
That's
do you have a
definitely-
particular team that you do this for?
Well, I think what it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vinny. I don't mean to cut you off.
Yes,
I
you
want to
do.
cut him off, but I don't mean to cut you off. What it sounds like to me is you have a sports magazine that has a niche market in working with these kids that are coming up through baseball.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what Axcess Baseball was started as?
Yeah. So to bring it back, really, my initial aim was to just be kind of like this grand central station for Long Island baseball news. I feel like that was kind of lacking. As you guys know, lacrosse is huge right now on Long Island, and there's a reason for that. There's a lot of kids that if you're number 1 ranked here, let's just say, you're probably number 1 in the nation. So a lot of the top athletes were starting to pick lacrosse over baseball. So it was lacking in the coverage, I felt like, and there was a little bit of a opening in the market. So what I did was kind of what I set out to do was to provide the Long Island baseball fans were kind of like an accurate depiction of what's going on. So, you know, when a big matchup's going on, I'll go down there, we cover the game, interview the players.
But Tony, I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Why you? What do you have in your background that enables you to be professional enough to go and do this? Like, basically, who's Vinny?
Yeah. Well, I think I have a pretty unique background. That's what's I think has enabled it to take off because, you know, growing up, being a Mets fan, you know, I'm kind of used to the pain.
Whoa.
Definitely.
You're done.
Wait,
By the way,
hey,
you're
Jim, we
Met
got a
fan.
problem here, right?
We're donating. We're dedicating this show tonight to Mel Stoudemire,
That's
who was
right.
not a Met. He was a Yankee.
Right.
Also,
And
played for
who
the
actually
Mets.
helped the Mets out in '86 to help them win a
Yeah,
Yeah, we
World
loaned
championship.
him. We loaned
But
him
we
to
got to
them
give
for
him
a
that.
year.
But you know, Mel, his career as a player and as a coach,
he
he's
was
really known
phenomenal.
as a
So
Yankee.
this is to Mel.
But
That's right.
but
May
you know,
rest in
this
peace.
station really has an allegiance to the Yankees, right, Jim?
Yeah.
You know, we have another show on here with a former Yankee employee. He actually is one of the hosts.
He's current. He's a current
Yeah.
Yankee employee.
Because he's still working
He
with the
still
Yankees,
works
right?
there. Yeah,
right?
45 years.
Wow. So, you know, so just let you know, don't tread too hard on the Yankees here. We won't beat up too much on the Mets, so we can talk about the Mets a little
I
bit.
could respect greatness, but no, to answer the question to finish.
So he respects us. He
No,
said
he
he
said
respects
no.
right. Oh, he said no. He said no.
He had nothing to do with you.
I'm sorry,
It's all right.
Vinny.
It's all right.
It's okay. So baseball was really always my passion growing up. Being from the time I was a little kid going to Shea Stadium, those are really my earliest memories. And then, playing it all year round. I was kind of this new age kid now where you really focus on one sport. Where
Were you
for
an
years,
outfielder?
Pitcher and first base.
You were a
being
pitcher?
a lefty, very
I would
limited. But
figure that you were outfielder.
no, I was always a pitcher. That was my my love. And then, once the playing days were done, I really
Why were
went-
they done?
Well, that's a long story. Besides the fact I don't throw 95 miles an hour like everyone needs to throw now, I had the dreaded labrum tear and rotator cuff.
that's
So
not
for a
good.
pitcher, that really is the kiss of death. So that was my
Could you hit a fastball?
barely. So that's why I
That's
was
a
that's
kiss
why I
of
was
death,
a pitcher.
Yeah, so
That's why I was a pitcher. But I had success, so that only allowed me to play in college. But the injury was what really ended it for me.
and
so.
ended your career, right?
Yep.
So that ended that. I'm sorry to hear that. So what you're saying is this, and correct me if I'm wrong. You listening? You paying attention? You're a baseball player. You're a very good baseball player. You love the game so much so that when you went to college, you said, I want to do this for a living, but how do I do it if I can't actually perform on the field? So you came up with this idea to scout kids on Long Island and actually create this website so that people can get, because I went on your website and it's not, Joe Smith from Smithtown, pitched 3 innings, and no, you get very detailed on what these kids can do. Right?
I think that happened over time. In the beginning, when I was playing and I was, consumed with just everything that goes on in a 21-year-old's life. I had to pay the bills, so I was bartending. It really made it difficult for me to go beyond the surface level in terms of the coverage. I was basically just aggregating the news and putting it on my site. And then as time went on and it became my full-time job and really, my livelihood, I was able to put more time into it. And then I was able to develop, relationships with the coaches and the players themselves so that when something happens, I would hear about it first. For example, a coaching hire at St. Anthony's, which is right down the road. That's a guy that was at St. Joseph's for 4 years before that. So once it happened, I was the first one to know. So that's the kind of stuff that I think you're referring to. Is it's not just surface level. It's
not
So you got a
surface level.
pipeline.
Yeah,
Well,
it's stuff that it takes years of developing. I think connections in our little industry.
Relationships.
So,
Yeah.
so right. So you created these relationships. You created these connections. You started to get a good reputation for doing this, right?
Thank you.
And then you got recognized last year by who?
By the San Diego Padres. That was really a cool moment because I think one of the things
Yeah,
that
it's a cool moment. I think so.
yeah. So the thing that I really struggled with, I think the stigma was for the older folks that maybe weren't on social media, which is where our audience lives. they didn't know what Axcess Baseball was or who Vinny Masana was. So I would just kind of had the stigma that I was this guy that was at the games. I was past my playing days that really didn't have any business being there. That was what I kind of feared. So when the San Diego Padres approached me and they had stumbled upon our Instagram account and Twitter, and I was covering a young pitcher throwing a bullpen session over in Bellport. And afterwards, I put up a video, and the funny thing was Aaron Judge commented on it. Because,
Really?
Yeah, so the kid that was pitching was a 15-year-old kid from the Bronx, and he was like 6'8" or 6'7", I think.
Oh my God!
And he tagged Aaron Judge in the picture, in the video of him pitching, and I forget what his hashtag was, but Aaron Judge acknowledged it, and he put like the laughing emoji that you could do with the iPhone, and since he's got quite a following, people.
How fast did that kid throw?
It wasn't particularly fast. Maybe in the mid 80s, but the thing was, what stood out was the fact that you don't see too many 6'8" pitchers at that age.
At that age, yeah.
And
you don't see too many people at 6'8". Period.
That's right. That's true.
At any age.
Well, no, that's not true. If you go
Well, I
around
used to be
basketball teams.
6'8", but that was it.
Yeah. When he's standing on a 6 foot ladder.
On a ladder.
So after that, I went home and I had gotten a direct message from one of the the higher ups in the organization, and said, it's middle of December and you're putting up videos of these kids. We're impressed with your work ethic. What do you think about working in scouting? And I said, I never thought about it. What would I have to do? He said, exactly what you're doing. We need to have a better understanding of the players in this region. Would you be
So what's your
interested in doing
territory?
it? Long Island, that's it. So
Just Long
I
Island?
don't have to go anywhere else.
Right,
Like,
so you scout Long Island.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we forgot to do when we started the show,
Yeah,
because
you're
you
right.
got so wrapped up in the peanuts and the Cracker Jacks and all that other stuff,
And the beer.
and the beer, right? Hey guys,
Call in.
call in.
631-415-1365. 631-415-1365.
It's right at the bottom of your screen, guys. Right
Take
along
a
the bottom
look.
of your screen, you can see it. All right, so give us a call if you got some questions for Vinny.
Or maybe you have a recommendation. Maybe you know somebody.
Always looking.
Maybe you know somebody in your family or friend's kid or whatever it may be who's an up-and-coming superstar at any age. And give us a call and see if you can speak to Vinny for just a couple of seconds. Good idea.
Yeah, because look, Vinny can't see every kid on Long Island. I'm sure. I'm sure you try to see as many as you can.
Yeah.
But I doubt that you can get to every kid on Long Island. Or even
absolutely.
in the New York metro area. I'm sure if you heard about somebody, you can refer them to somebody who you want to be. So, so Vinny, let's go back. Right. Let's go back to your childhood. This is the moment in the show where we go back to the childhood. So you can ask the
We're
question.
so far past that.
Oh,
And tonight, we're so far past it. So, but,
Absolutely.
I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, go ahead.
Vinny, when you were a kid growing up and it was summertime or whatever, springtime, and you were in your backyard or you're hanging out with your friends, what were you doing? Playing baseball?
Yeah, I would say baseball, football, and basketball. Were
So you
three
were an
sports.
athlete.
Yep.
You were out there playing ball. Did you ever in your wildest dream, well, I guess you did because we all did as kids, I guess, dream about being a professional athlete? Was that on your bucket list?
Definitely. I would say my first idol in sports was Mike Piazza. So I always kind of dreamed of being that middle of the order,
like him.
the middle of the order power hitter for the Mets. And at that age, 9-10 years old, that's really what I envisioned. Obviously, it didn't work out, but we could all
Didn't work out for him too well.
We could all.
Well, actually, it
dream.
worked out very well for him. He's, Piazza had a great career. He was a great
That's right.
player. He definitely was a great player for the Mets.
Not
Unfortunately,
saying much.
well, he couldn't get a ring for the Mets because they lost the World Series to
ran
who?
to the Yankees,
Oh, the
that's right.
Yankees.
Oh,
that's
the
right.
Yankees was it?
Yeah, the Yankees.
Which, by the way, I gotta say, one of the coolest things since I've gotten to do this was last year. They had a pitching clinic for like really young kids. I think it was like 6 to 11-year-olds, and Mariano Rivera hosted it. And that was something that obviously I wouldn't have gotten invited to had I not been doing this, because I'm not a parent and I'm not a player at that age. So I would have just been something I read about maybe. But the gentleman that hosted it, he had a connection to his son. He texted me and said, "You want to hear something cool? Mariano Rivera is going to be at St. John the Baptist on Saturday," and it was over a year ago in October. And I was like, I will be there. I don't care what time of the day it is. What Mariano's Mariano. Probably going to be the first unanimous Hall of Famer ever. So I went down there, and they kind of made it clear. Look, this guy's a legend. He's not looking to hang out with you, be friends with you. But if you want to say hello, shake his hand, take a picture, that kind of thing, that's fine. So me being the journalist, I wanted to get inside of his head a little bit. So I said to him, look, when Piazza hit that ball in 2000 World Series, did you think that was gone? And, to me, this was like talking to Picasso about art. Like, this is Mariano, the best reliever, best pitcher of all time. He was like, no, he missed it by just enough. I knew it was going to be an out. And that was pretty insightful information, because I remember watching that, and you watch enough baseball, you kind of get a sense of what's going to be a hit, what's going to be an out.
Right.
Yeah, and Piazza is one of the greatest hitters of all time. So usually when he puts a good swing on it, you think he's got a chance. And Shea Stadium is pretty big by major league dimensions.
Right. It was the old Shea Stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, and Bernie Williams caught it right at the fence. But hearing that from the guy himself, that was really cool. And that's something that wouldn't have been possible.
But he can say that now because it was an out, right?
I believe him, though. The
There's
guy
a
got the benefit
reporter,
of the
and
doubt.
I don't remember his name,
Mm-hmm.
but he has a vote in the Hall of Fame. And he said he was going to vote against
That's right. Yeah.
Rivera.
Well, you definitely
He
called
didn't
me
think
out
he
on
was that
my
good.
point. I don't think that guy has a vote though.
Well,
Actively.
I thought that he did, but whether he does it, how can you even think
That's
that?
But here's the thing.
ridiculous.
This is the problem with reporters, and not to
Yeah, I'm not
bash
a
you.
major league reporter,
Right.
so
Okay.
no offense to
But I mean, the guys that vote on the Hall, a lot of times they go, "Well, nobody should get in on the
Yeah.
first ballot, so I'm not going to
He said
vote for
that
him."
too.
Mm-hmm.
Mariano Rivera is a first ballot Hall of
Yeah.
Famer. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah,
You
frankly,
know?
that mentality has to go. I think that was more relevant maybe in the 50s and 60s. The
Yeah.
guys that were like, well, Christy Mathewson didn't get in his first time, so I don't think anybody should get in.
Yeah.
I don't think you should penalize anybody for their greatness, for something that's not even,
Well, you shouldn't hold them
relevant to
back
their
anyway.
career. What was that?
You shouldn't hold them back.
Yeah, I think if anyone, first of all, Mariano's, the greatest reliever of all time.
And
If
a
he
class
doesn't
act.
get in,
He was a
then-
class act.
Exactly.
Never in trouble.
Never a problem.
Never a
And in
problem.
this day and age, where obviously any slip up is on TMZ and in the New York Post hours later. So for him and Derek Jeter never to be involved in anything, and David Wright for that matter,
Derek's been in more trouble since he left. And,
Yeah, right. Yeah, Derek's having
and
more
that's
trouble.
almost nothing.
Yeah, a lot of that is more his lapses in judgment with running the organization. But
Yeah.
to be
Well,
in the
he's not a
limelight-
businessman. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
He's a shortstop. That's what he is.
Yeah, well, I think that those decisions will come back to haunt the organization, attendance-wise. But he's doing what he thinks is what is best for them financially to cut the payroll.
Yeah, he's got to do what he's got to do.
Mhm.
So, Vinny, how do you hear about these athletes?
Mhm.
Is
That
it you just happen across some of them, or how does that work? How do you decide which games you're going to go watch? Which players you're going to go watch? How do you make that decision?
It's a really good question. I think there's a couple different variables that go into it as far as determining what game to cover. Early on in the season, it's a lot of projecting. You're trying to get to the good matchups, and that's based off of the team's success last year and how I think they're going to be this year, depending on their players. But again, you're dealing with 16, 17-year-old kids. There's no guarantee that they're going to replicate that level of success that they had last year. So there is a lot of projecting that goes into it that I can be wrong. There's times where I think it could be the so-called game of the day, and it ends up being 10-0, which happens every so often. You're dealing with a game of baseball that there's so much that so much is up in the air.
How often does it happen when you go see one player and then you find one or two others?
Oh, that's a jackpot though, because you want to know who those hidden gems are.
Each
happens
team
pretty
has one or
frequently.
two people that are like star players.
Yeah, and sometimes kids that I might not know about. But to the other part of the question, how do I find out about the kids? Really, it's either word of mouth. A lot of times the coach at this point want to get the word out to me. They know that I'm a scout, so it's not like they're just, telling their friend about it. They want to do what's right for the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll hear about it typically from a coach, or if I just go down and, like I had told you off the air, hanging out at these indoor facilities, which are 24/7 now, it seems like, you're going to see a kid getting a lesson from a private pitching coach or a hitting instructor, and you see, hey, someone's gets my attention. Really, that's where it comes from.
And that's you said something about these facilities. They go 24/7. 365 days a week. Do you ever run into difficult parents where they know you're a scout and right away they want to, my kid's the best kid in the world, and start negotiating a deal then and there?
Look, I'll say this: I don't have a lot to complain about because at the end of the day, there's people that have bigger problems and more important jobs than me. But if there's anything to complain about, it's the delusional parents. It happens more so, I would say, at the younger ages, because as kids get older and they actually find out where they stand against their contemporaries, especially at the varsity level, it's harder for them to get in my ear and say that they're going to be the next Derek Jeter. But when they're 12 years old and everybody is 5'3", and they're not done growing yet, parents tend to be a little
Except
bit more...
when you're 15 and 6'8" and you come to the Cubs.
Right, yeah,
And you got an
exactly.
85-mile-an-hour fastball at 15 years of age.
Yeah, those are the kids that are going to stand out. But when everyone seems to be on, pre-puberty, so to speak, and they haven't really stood out, a lot of parents tend to be
You're still
disillusioned.
puberty, right?
What's that?
Yes.
That's for the next episode.
Yeah, right. That's
I'm
the
so
next
far
episode.
past puberty.
That's it. Hey, John, I see you're watching, John. You have a question for our guest, Vinny? Why don't you call in and ask a question?
Let me say hello also. I want to say hello to Cookie Watkins.
Hey, Cookie.
Cookie, how are you, sweetie?
I see John actually texted me this week. He said he wanted to call in and ask a question. But I don't think he's got the guts. I don't think he got the guts to call in, John.
Oh, is that guy from Jersey?
That's my cousin.
Your cousin?
My cousin John. Yeah.
Yeah, I dare you.
He's getting called out.
We're getting called out.
Did you ever coach a team, Little League team or anything?
No, I never did any coaching.
You missed out on that one.
I'm lucky. I would say summer camps I've done before. I like those. Working with the young kids with the fundamentals and stuff like that.
Do you get invited to baseball summer camps?
Yeah, the big one is the New York Baseball Academy. Actually, it's at Hofstra, and they've had it for, I believe, 43 years now. And the last 3, they've had me come down, talk to the kids, just kind of give them something to shoot for. They feel like they're special.
Do you see any kids there that you say, hey, you know what, I got to take a note and write this kid down because he's maybe something in a couple of years or maybe looking at?
What about Little Leagues? Do you go to Little Leagues? Or
Little League, no, but the camps are good because those are typically the elite players. So even though they're young, you're dealing with a lot of the kids that are serious. If the parents are willing to pay that kind of money for a 6-week lesson, they really don't want to get embarrassed there. Right. So it tends to be the better players. But yes, since we're dealing with the online content business, it never stops. So just because it's a summertime, I still need to write feature stories and cover stuff. So when I go down there, if there's a kid that gets my eye, which there was a player, he was 7 years old and was in that camp and was getting looked at by the college coaches already. Sure enough, he ended up committing to Hofstra 8 years later. So they kept going to it every single year, and it was the same kid that they pinpointed at 7 years old. So
how do people reach you? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, social media is a beautiful thing, in email. So I always tell people, why
don't you give out those contact information?
Yeah, give out your email address and just to let you know, for us, we're going to put the graphic up so you can see his information as Vinny's giving it out.
Yeah, so the email is my name, Vinny, Vinny, at axcessbaseball.com. That's AXCESS baseball.com. And then on all the social medias, you could just type in Axcess Baseball and it will come up.
Now, Axcess is AX.
Yes, AX.
AX, right?
And you don't have a phone number that you want to give out? Cell number or anything?
That we don't want to give out on the air. So let's stick to email.
Well, no, because he'd have all these parents calling him up saying, "Hey, I got a 7-year-old that
10 people
that throws
20 people
22 miles an hour."
I got to sleep sometimes.
And you get one superstar that's in there.
Well, there's other ways to get in touch.
Okay, I guess so.
So tell me about, being a reporter, right, and trying to give fair opinions of players. Does being a scout get in the way of that? Does it become a conflict of interest when you're promoting a kid knowing that, this kid could be picked up by somebody?
The only time that's ever an issue is there's been a couple kids over the last couple years that were so-called, like, secrets, and the scouts have told me, don't write about him, and because every once in a while we'll put out rankings of players.
Right.
People really like to have numbers attached to players, and there was one player in particular that a scout friend of mine told me don't write about him because that they wanted to keep him under wraps until after the season started.
Well, because they wanted to sign him, right?
Yeah, in which the rival actually ended up getting him. So
Getting a call?
You got a phone call.
We're getting a call.
Hello, everybody. Who are you?
We put out rankings of players.
Hello.
Right.
People really like to
Hey,
have
welcome to the
numbers
show.
attached to players. And there was one player in particular
who's on-
that
How you
doing?
A
Who's
scout
on the line
friend of
with
mine
us?
told me don't write about him because
I'd like to ask a question.
him under
You gotta
wraps
turn
until
off your,
after the season started.
Well,
But
because they wanted to
that's
sign
the
him, right?
Yeah,
on
in
your-
which the
on
rival
where- on where you're
actually
listening to us.
getting him. So
Getting a call?
You got a phone call.
We're getting a call.
Hello, everybody. Who are you? Hello. Turn down your radio.
Turn down your radio. We can't hear you. Hello.
Hi.
And there was one player in particular that
How you doing?
Turn down your radio. We can't hear you. Turn down your Facebook.
I'd like to ask a question.
All right, John. Hey, John, ask the
Started.
question. Well, because they wanted to sign him.
Yeah, I hung up.
Yeah. It's come
He
on,
should
John.
have hung up.
Hey, John, turn the volume down on your computer, your iPad, or whatever you're watching on before you call. Call back.
He's an
Call back.
electrician,
Yeah,
right?
no, he's not an electrician. Hello.
Hi. He's not a radio
Oh, he's back.
engineer. That's for sure.
He's my cousin. Turn down your radio. We can't hear you. Turn down your Facebook.
I'd like to ask a question.
All right, John. Hey, John, ask the
Started.
question. Well, because they wanted to sign him.
Yeah, I hung up.
Hey, John.
Can you hear me?
Come
He
on,
should
John.
have hung up.
Hey, John, turn the volume down on. All right.
Oh, he must be calling Chris and ordering dinner.
So if John calls back in, then we'll have John ask the
right.
question. I'm sure he's gonna. He probably knows now that you're a Met fan, so I'm sure he's gonna ask you a Met question.
Okay, so you were we were talking about keeping some things a secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't happen all that often because we're dealing with, at the end of the day, and Long Island on the grand scheme of things is not a hotbed for baseball talent
But
as much
now-
as we would like to.
Right. So I don't mean to cut you off, right? But you said if a scout from another team came to you and said, "Hey, we don't want this kid to get out," doesn't that make you want to think that, hey, you know what? I got to call my boss at the Padres and say,
Yeah.
the Red Sox scout wants to keep this kid under wraps.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they knew about him. It was a matter of not amplifying that
Right.
noise. Like the people that did know about him, he wanted it to be like, well, keep it at that. Don't
Right.
know.
They don't want all the teams going after this kid. They
Yeah.
just want to leave it to a small group that knew, right?
Yeah, because once I put it out there with our following that, there's a very good chance that now other rivals now are gonna know about him. So.
What do you do in the off season?
Well, a lot of it, honestly, the off season nowadays, there's a blurred line between what even is the off season because baseball seems like it's 365 days a year in terms of preparation at least. So in
Well,
January you got
You said that you got all these indoor facilities that they're playing baseball in.
yeah. So
and all
the
this
college
other stuff.
season is a month from today. So these pitchers, they need to be ready to be game ready in a month. So they're throwing bullpens. It's the kind of thing that I'll be I'll go around to the local facilities.
How do colleges in the Northeast play ball so early when we're still getting snow?
Well, it's a good question. The short answer is they go away to the south usually for the first few weekends. But even when they come back, it's still cold.
Yeah, if you're starting to play games in your season,
yeah, like
it's freezing outside there. It's nuts.
Yeah, usually like the line of, let's say, like the official line to go south beneath would be like Myrtle Beach.
Right.
If you're going to open up your season south of there, you pretty much know it's going to be baseball weather. And then they come back typically like the first week of March, and they start to play home games here, which still is cold, and you'll still
Right.
get snow. But I don't know. They've never learned. They never pushed it back, honestly.
I mean, that hurts when that ball gets into your glove in the middle of winter time.
Yeah,
that hurts.
I think part of it is because basically every college finishes the first week of May, second week of May,
yeah, that's the
and their
thing.
semesters are over, right? But the baseball still goes on. The College World Series happens when?
The College World Series is late. It goes all the way up to the last week of June.
Yeah.
So when Stony Brook, for example, was in it in 2012, that's when those kids were still, they're not on campus because they're traveling. But
See, now, and this is what it gets me. I mean, there are so many schools on Long Island, high schools, junior highs, and colleges. How do you keep up?
well, it's not just me anymore. I have a pretty good number of college interns that I set up a program with all the local universities. So a lot of times when a kid is getting ready to graduate and they need to fulfill their internship responsibilities, they'll email me. We'll set up a deal with their internship coordinator, and then I have them for the season. So they'll cover a couple games a week, and I have about 10 of those.
Do you ever do any other sports?
We're looking to get into other sports. We did football in the fall, which I thought went pretty well. We covered one game a week, like a game of the week type of thing, the best matchup, whether it be in Suffolk County. We're a little too slanted towards Suffolk, I felt like, so that's something we'll work on next year. But we're doing basketball right now, and then in the spring the goal is to do a lot of lacrosse and softball in addition to baseball.
Okay.
So you got to have a big staff, to do all of this. There's so many games, so many schools, so many sports.
Yeah, and as time goes on, especially with baseball, I feel more responsibility. In the beginning, I would just do whatever I can, and I felt like people kind of appreciated it because it was better than nothing. But now if I'm going to, fancy myself, this media company that covers, all the important games, when playoff time comes around, I feel like I have to be everywhere. And it's, it can be overwhelming. But
because you want to catch every great moment.
And you can't really trust...
Jim, just let you know, John's trying to call back in, and he keeps saying it goes to voicemail. So, you banned him?
Well, you've been bad.
We'll try again. We're working on it, John.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That last week of May is pretty crazy because you have, everything at once between the high school playoffs, the college playoffs, and then the preparation.
Do you do
for
hockey
the draft.
too?
No, I wish. I know there's a very passionate fan base for that.
Huge.
That might be a good idea, though.
Yeah, hockey's big on Long Island.
If you get another couple of days to the week, maybe you could do that.
Running out of time here.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I'm texting my cousin John back and forth. There we go.
Oh, cool.
And this should be him.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to the Business Power Hour with Darren and the Music Man. Who's calling tonight?
This is Frank from Syosset.
Hey, you know what? You sound.
Okay, John.
Yeah, right. You sound like John. John
I have a two-part question, actually.
Hey, wait. Hold on. You sound like John from Hazlitt who calls the fan all the time. Didn't you get it?
No, that's not me.
Didn't you get a TV from Boomer Esiason? True story. I'm going to tell you.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to tell you a baseball story. All right, a Mets story. Okay. My cousin John, and we know this is Frank from Syosset, so it's not him. No, my cousin John. When the Mets were in the World Series a few years ago, calls up. At the time, it was Boomer and Carton. Right, calls up, and he called all the time, and he talked about how him and his buddies were going to watch the Met game in his garage. On what, like 32-inch TV? Is that what it was, Frank?
It was a 42-inch rear projection TV that I got when I got married.
Okay, so 42-inch rear. Boomer took pity on him and sent him that day a 60-inch screen TV. Honest to God, right, John?
It was a 65-inch curved HD TV.
You're right. Boomer Esiason sent that to him as a present. That was great, wasn't it?
So what's
fantastic.
That was pretty awesome.
So what's your,
Frank from Syosset, what's your
what's
question?
your two-part question, Frank?
Oh, sure. Actually, Norm, I just want to know what it was like to watch Babe Ruth play.
Actually, it was quite entertaining, especially when he stuck his hand up and said he was going to hit it out of the park.
That's it. So
Really? You were there for that game? That's unbelievable.
No, you laugh. I used to work at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, boy.
yeah,
My second question was, I want to know who got hit with more balls to the face, Darren or Yogi Berra?
Hey, John, I love you, John. No, seriously.
I love you too, pal.
Do you have a question? Do you have a serious question, or you just called in to bust ones?
No, I don't have a serious question. I just called it to break chops.
Hey, wait, were you talking about a kid in Jersey that this guy's got to see?
What do you mean? No. No, he's in Brooklyn.
Oh, he's in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn's
okay,
even better.
boy.
Yeah.
Brooklyn's Long Island, dude. Believe it or not.
He plays for Severian.
Okay.
Okay, would you like to text his name into
Because we can
Darren?
get him into the Padres.
Yeah, I could do that.
Get him some looks.
I could do that.
Yeah, get
Yeah,
him some
do it.
looks.
Do it.
Absolutely.
You'll be doing him a big favor.
Yeah.
And Babe
You
will be
think?
forever grateful.
Well, if he gets drafted, then you can, or he signs a contract with the Padres, and you can say, hey, you know what? It was all about me.
What position does he play?
Shortstop.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good.
All right. Let's,
No.
All right.
Is
get
he a
us an in.
senior? Is he a junior?
He is a junior, correct.
All right.
Ideal.
Ideal.
He is a junior.
Send me
He's
that.
on the varsity team.
All right, we're waiting for the text. Thank you very much.
Send us the email. Give my love to your wife and beautiful children.
All right.
All right.
I would say the same for you, but I can't. All right.
Give your wife a kiss on me, will you?
I love you, John. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Thanks for calling me. Bye-bye.
So,
I'll
yeah,
give you a
that's-
story. We're going to go back in dates.
No, but that was true about the TV. You got
I'm
a
sure it
65
is. This
inch
is true, too. In 1985, I went to Yankee Fantasy Camp.
Really?
I was in Fort Lauderdale.
Really? That's
It was
cool.
at the old training center
1985.
that they have.
Was Mel Stottlemyre there?
No, he wasn't. Everybody else was there. It was, Bill Skowron was there.
Oh, 85, Mel was still coaching with
Mickey Mantle was
with the
there.
Mets,
and
right,
Bucky
right.
Dent was there, and whatever. Anyway, we go in, we change our clothes, we do whatever may be, and it's the first day, and things are going great. And my particular team, we're in first place. Had nothing to do with me, but we were in first place. And I'm catching one game, and you could play anywhere. It was great. It was the way it did it, and
You were catching?
I was a good catcher.
You didn't have to squat.
My
right?
knees are killing me.
Oh, why?
Really.
You're slow enough. You didn't have to.
You know, believe me, I was down. I was down. Me and Yogi.
You and Yogi.
Yeah,
Huh?
absolutely.
What a great guy
Bucky
Yogi was.
Dent comes in, and his first pitch. Now, any shortstop can throw as hard as any pitcher. There's no question about it.
You got the
He
arm
heaves off a fastball. I have to give all my admiration to these baseball players when it comes time to hit and these catches to catch. He busted my thumb right through the glove. I caught it right in the webbing where you're supposed to catch it. Broke my thumb.
Really?
Took 7 months to heal. And that's
7
the
months.
That was the abridged version of this particular story. True story.
Wow.
Wow.
That was the end of your.
So
I
Bucky
have a
Dent
little
broke his
baseball card with my Yankee uniform or whatever. Maybe.
That was
Yeah,
the
but you
end
know
of
what?
your.
If you just come out and say, well, you know, Bucky Dent broke my thumb, it would sound a lot worse than you caught a fastball from Bucky Dent.
It was
That was
crazy.
the end of your
Then I
season.
took
You didn't get to
No, I
win
get
the World
to.
Series.
I played the rest of the time. He threw a second pitch. I thought maybe it's just my imagination. I jumped out of the way. You know, it was great. It was a great time. It was a great time. We had a lot of fun.
That's a great story. Though.
Can't hit a baseball. I mean, at 55 miles an hour, people were striking out every which way. These guys are throwing like 80, 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm not touching that.
Yeah, we're not, yeah. You know, it's when we were kids and we're growing up and we're playing ball. We can hit 90 miles an hour. No
Yeah,
big
until
deal.
you step in the box.
Until you step in a box and,
And
that thing's
that's
coming
without
at you.
seeing the movement and the
All right.
breaking stuff that now the guys have.
Did you ever
in
hear of
this
a
game.
softball player? It's a group called King in His Court.
Yes.
You remember
Yes.
that back in the day? There
I've
were
heard of
4
it.
guys that played the entire field.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Why is because their pitcher was throwing 60, 70 miles an hour.
Nobody could touch him.
Yeah.
Crazy. It was crazy.
What was his name?
I don't remember.
He was
Don't
the
remember.
king.
He was the king.
He was the king.
He was
Yeah, that
Court.
was
Court
that
was
was a
his
trouble
last
show.
name.
Court. Man.
Quart.
Oh God. All right, Vinny. So again, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, the biggest thing is social media nowadays. I mean, that's how first of all, that's how a lot of people get in touch with me for players. And, you know, if not for that, you know, this thing wouldn't have even taken off. So, Axcess Baseball on Instagram,
With an
Twitter,
X.
Facebook. Yep, AXCESS
Right,
Baseball.
AXCESS, right?
You know, if they want to advertise, do you have different packages
Oh, yeah.
for them to advertise on?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is because some teams, they just want to put out, you know, one blast about a tryout. And then you have other, you know, indoor facilities that want a year-long package. So we try to cater something to, you know, whatever they're
Can you give
looking
us a
for.
couple of examples of that people maybe we can get some people interested in and call you for it?
Yeah.
Well, tell me your typical advertiser. Who really advertises? Anybody trying to reach these athletes?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing for me is travel organizations. I mean, they're looking for high school and, you know, younger kids and it's very hard to reach that demographic.
You mean like travel agents?
No, travel teams. So like
travel
yeah,
teams,
teams
okay.
that will, you know, that play summer and fall ball. If they're looking, and there's a lot of those nowadays. I mean, from what everybody tells me that's older is, years ago is you had 2 or 3 travel teams, and if you weren't good enough to be on them, you just played in your intramural league. But now there's so many so-called elite organizations that they're all looking for players, and that really for me is my bread and butter in terms of the advertisers, and then also indoor facilities that are looking to fill up their batting cages and stuff.
What about like sports medicine? Doctors,
Actually,
therapists,
that's
things
another
like
one.
that.
Yeah, or Orland and Cohen is my one of my advertisers. So any time that there's a orthopedic surgeon that's looking to get their name out to athletes, God forbid they tear their ACL or UCL or require invasive surgery, that's another type of advertiser. And then also there's a lot of speed and agility places nowadays that are catered to young athletes as well. So.
Right. Yeah. So you can go in and they can work on different strength exercises and things like that.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. They're called prehab now, where you're not just fixing an injury. You're looking to diagnose any muscle deficiencies, stuff like that. That's
so wait a
business
second.
now.
So they're going in and they're trying to figure out where the weaknesses are before the injury happens.
Yeah, I think it's
so they
great.
do that now.
Yeah, and
It's
they can hook you up to like
science
sensors and stuff, and those sensors will give you data on an iPad or a tablet. That way, if a pitcher's throwing, you can see if maybe his shoulder muscles are a little bit weaker than they should be, which is typically going to be a precursor to a significant injury. So as a parent, if you could prevent a labrum or a rotator cuff tear before it happens, I mean, that is invaluable right there. You're saving yourself time, which is more than, more valuable.
Well, and that's the thing, right? As kids get older, what's worse? A kid getting an injury senior year or a kid getting an injury in junior high?
Definitely in high school, because at that point, you're against the clock, really. If you want to get a scholarship, let's say you're unsigned. For me, I missed my whole 11th grade year, which was, first of all, devastating, but also very, very hurtful for my outlook for my career, because all the schools that were originally interested in me, which I was coming off a very successful year, so there was some interest from the Division I schools. Once I got hurt, now you're off the radar.
What Division I schools were after you?
Well, for one, Siena was one upstate, Fairleigh Dickinson, Fordham, which was one of my first choices.
St. Bronx.
Yeah. Stony Brook to lesser degree. A couple schools in Delaware when I went on a tournament. So that was disappointing to lose that interest.
That interest, because now it's also scholarship and going to college.
Yeah, and you can't redshirt. Whereas when you get hurt in college, you at least know that there's 1 year that you can, that you get back. God forbid you suffer an injury, or even if you're just, maybe not up to par with your teammates, and you feel like you need that another.
Now,
year.
you hear all these reports on TV and stuff like that. That a lot of these parents, because they're pushing these kids at a younger age, that these kids are getting these significant injuries at a much younger age. Also, I mean, is there a lot of truth to that, or?
Yeah, I think that as parents see how much money is in the game of baseball, they kind of push these kids harder at a younger age, and it's not beneficial to the kid. That's why, they're on top of it now. Major League Baseball implemented a pitch count rule at the little league levels.
Yes.
So I think it's called Pitch Smart, where there's all sorts of rules. It's not just one number. I think it's, let's just say 95 on full rest, but if you're on less than full rest, that number is significantly lower, and
you can only pitch a certain number of games a week. And
that's the thing. So it's not just one rule. They're pretty good about it.
Here's what's confusing to me sometimes, because I sit there and go, you're going to save yourself and only pitch counts and all this other stuff. Back in this, now I know you're the 50s and the 60s, right? So me, it's the 70s and Jim, 70s and 80s.
Yep.
These pitchers used to pitch like 200 plus innings a year, and they used to go 8, 9 innings,
3 games a week, full games.
And well, it was every fourth to fifth day, just like they do now. But they would pitch 8, 9 innings. Now today, you don't see these pitchers go past the 5th, 6th inning tops.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and
what happened? What happened? What changed that all of a sudden these guys are not as durable as they used to be?
Well, I think for one, the velocity uptick and the amount of breaking balls that guys throw just kind of leaves them more vulnerable to injuries. Back then, how many pitchers were throwing above 90 miles per hour in the 60s or in the 70s. Nolan Ryan, someone that everyone points to, threw 300 plus innings per year, pitched until he was 47 years old, 7 no-hitters. Honestly, he's more of the anomaly. I find that from at least my studies is that pitchers back then, they would throw a lot, but then they had shorter careers. When they got hurt, there wasn't the amount of knowledge in terms of
But you never heard
back.
about these baseball players in general getting hurt. They played through everything.
I think it just went unreported, honestly, or undiagnosed.
But they kept
were
playing. They didn't take them even out of the games.
Yeah.
It was never that serious.
It wasn't.
Well, the
You know,
big-
someone cuts their finger. You know, they're out for 3 weeks.
I think a major issue with it is the amount of money involved in the players. So if a guy does complain of an injury, they're looking long term. They're saying we'd rather, have him on the 15-day disabled list, miss a week and a half, 2 weeks of playing, versus potentially,
shortening their season and not having
or his
them
career.
in a crunch time, right? So
and when there's that much money on the line, they're looking bigger.
right.
picture.
Syndergaard had a big nail issue, right, or something
Yeah,
like
he had
that.
hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Yes, hand, foot, and mouth disease. Yeah.
How do you get
Yeah.
that? Don't tell me. I don't want to know.
This one year, he was doing a clinic with younger kids for baseball makes their stars usually do this stuff to for positive publicity, and of course one of the kids was sick, and just something that would only happen to the Mets, right? The star player gets something that was from the 1900s.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works out with the Mets.
You have any special events coming up? Anything that you want to talk about?
Well, we do an all-star game in May for the top college seniors on Long Island, which is something that I'm really excited about because in the 3 years that I've done it, 24 players have gone on to get signed professional contracts.
Wow.
5 of them were drafted. So that,
Wow.
to me, that's a big number because you're talking about pretty much 20% of the kids that participated in it wound up fulfilling
Now
their
this
dreams.
is from Axcess?
Yes.
This is a special thing from Axcess.
So
Yeah, I just
Access
seen that.
puts this all-star game. Where do you guys play?
We did it at Hofstra the last 2 years and the PAL complex in Holbrook the year
Holbrook.
before that.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that PAL complex.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hofstra obviously is another level from that
Right.
because it's college facility, it's
It's
turf,
professional.
Right.
yeah, it's, mhm.
So when does this game happen?
We haven't finalized the date, but last year we did it on May 31st. There's only a very small window that we can even pull something like that off. The reason is
Right.
because the Division I season, their conference playoffs are usually Memorial Day weekend, so you can't do it before that. Otherwise,
Right.
any of those players aren't going to participate. And then the draft is the first week of June.
Oh,
So
boy.
basically, there's 1 week so it's just a matter of what day in that week that we're going to do.
So,
gotta hope
so
the
there's a
weather's
good
okay.
chance, right? So
May is
there's a
usually
good
okay.
chance that if somebody has a potential of being drafted and they show up and play in this game and perform, that they're going to get good reports and that will help in their draft.
Yeah, and the
Right.
key is they have to already be a significant name. The thing is, there's a lot of players like that because in our region, you have a lot of so-called borderline, what we call fringe prospects, guys that if they put up big numbers this year, they could get drafted. If they put up only average numbers and they're not a prospect, so we're dealing with the kids that are in that fringe territory. That if they have a big game in front of the right guy, they're going to get drafted. Not where it's a shot in the dark where, he'd have to come out of nowhere and throw 100 miles an hour. There's
Right.
not many people like that. We're talking about kids that, the scouts know about, and they just want to get that one last look at him the week before the draft.
Do you have any sleepers in your mind of kids that you got your eye on?
Or you want to keep that on the wrap.
I'm not asking names. I'm not asking names. Just a yes or a no.
Yes, of course. And the great thing about last year was that there was 2 players, and they both wound up getting drafted that basically came from obscurity. Logan O'Hoppe and Franklin Parra were 2 kids that, in terms of the national scene, nobody knew who they were, and they just happened to put everything together in that short window, your senior year of high school, and they got their dreams fulfilled. So that's really what I try to do is find those
Fantastic.
kids.
Remember in the beginning I told you that the time's going to fly. We're going to have a good time. Well, we're almost out of time already.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
bye-bye
It does go
time.
quick,
yeah, it's bye-bye time. We already through. Is there anything else you want to promote?
Really, that's it. I mean, I think we covered all the bases. We talked about, how we got started, what we do now, where we're looking to go with the other sports and stuff like that. So,
All right, Vinny.
I had a good time.
All right, cool, man. We thank you for being on. And everybody, go to accessbaseball.com. Check out his website. I tell you, I went up there. There's a lot of great information. And if you know what, if you want to start this in your own area, get in touch with Vinny, and he'll partner up with you.
That would be
You know,
really
say I'm
cool.
going to
If
make
you
you
know
into
any
an
kids,
entrepreneur
if you
yet,
think you
Vinny.
got any kids,
You know?
any stars out there, let Vinny know.
Let
You got
Vinny
nothing
know.
to lose.
We'll get it going for you. So you contact Vinny. We gave you all one more time, Vinny. Give your contact information out.
Yep. Email is Vinny, VINNY, at Axcess Baseball, AXCESSBaseball.com.
All right. Thanks, Vinny.
guys.
Hey, Vinny, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
Happy New Year to
All
you.
right. Happy New Year to you, too.
Well, you
All
can't
right.
wait to get out of that seat.
Conversation that all dead. The lines cut off inside my head. I left here like a broken man with no idea of where I stand. Oh, my mind clear. Oh, I shed all of my tears. Oh, now baby, I was just waiting here while you moved on. Security, this newfound freedom you kept from me. The sound of all your loaded guns. This outbreak war has just begun. The sound of all your loaded guns. This broken man has already won. Oh, my mind clear. Oh, I shed